God, it feels good to be home. And thanks for putting up with me for the past, 8, 9, 10 days. I can't even keep track of the Wicked Radio live stream with bad lighting, bad internet, off times. I had to miss a day because of my daughter's surgery, all that stuff. But everything is cool. And a little update on my daughter. All is good. Back home. Plane flight home, a little rough. I'm going to tell you, that was kind of awful. Not the flight itself, but to be expected. You know, there's pain involved with this thing. Recovery process whenever you have like any kind of a back or spine surgery, but to watch your kid in pain, you can't do anything about it. That's like one of the worst feelings in the world. But already better feeling last night and as of this morning. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. Back home on a Friday and Mother's Day weekend, no less. How about that? A little programming note here on the Wicked Wisdom channels, which is, Wicked Radio is the live stream. Wicked Wisdom is the social media channels on everything out there. I'm going to record an interview today. It's going to post later on this afternoon, usually about maybe 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern time. I think you're going to like this. A Mother's Day weekend special. I'm going to talk to a guy who I've talked to before. He's great, Dr. Steven Sidoroff. He's a pretty well-acclaimed psychologist, and he's written a book called The 9 Pillars of Resilience. But it's about what he's all about in this whole thing is turning stress that we're all going through into a superpower and actually using it. Well, I figured nobody's more stressed out these days than moms. So just for the moms, I think could turn all that mom stress into a superpower and actually use it to help themselves. So that's coming up later on. But with all that said, thanks for finding me. I appreciate it so much. So here we are. Yesterday we're packing up the luggage, like 9,000 suitcases, going into an Uber, trying to manage our way to LaGuardia Airport in New York and all that stuff. And the news breaks and oh my God, and it's so funny, too, because you look out in any public area like that when there's a big news story and you see people going all at the same time. Oh, something going on here. Breaking news. Wait, there's white smoke coming out of the Vatican. They've chosen a pope. Wait a minute. That's not white smoke. That's red, white, and blue smoke. It's an American pope. Oh, my God. It wasn't really red, white, and blue. But, yeah, here we go. We've got a brand new pope. Didn't take too long. I think it was the third vote, they said. Second day of conclave. He is Pope Leo XIV, started his life off as Robert Prevost, and he's from Chicago. Not only Chicago, apparently he's from the south side of Chicago, which is relevant to the story, because one of the first things, this is amazing, not only amazing that we have the first American Pope in history, one of the first things people wanted to know when they found out that he started his life in Chicago, he's been a missionary all over the world, mostly Peru, I think, okay. Is he a Cubs or a White Sox fan? This is what happens when we get an American Pope. These are the relevant things we want to know. It turns out, I guess because he's from the South Side, he's a White Sox fan. I don't know, but an amazing thing. All right, so here's the moment that he stepped out in the balcony at the Vatican, out in the porch, and he announced himself, and the Vatican announced him to the world. Here he is. Here's Pope Leo XIV, the chosen papal name. Here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, it's him. He's waving. Gotta learn the Pope wave. Huge crowd. I mean, all trumpets and everything. You gotta admit, even if you're not Catholic, the Roman Catholic Church is good at the pomp and circumstance. They really are. I mean, it's colorful. You heard the horns there, how they do it, The Vatican, they have their own city. They do a good job with that stuff. So what do we know about this guy? Like I said, the first American pope. Out of all of them, Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Prevost, like I said, in Chicago. Started off life, his first part of his career in Chicago was Father Bob, that's what they call him. He's the 14th pope overall. Leo XIV, excuse me. He's the 267th pope overall. St. Peter... I love this, that papal history has come up throughout this whole process where people are like, they're watching that movie Conclave and they're finding out about the church. St. Peter pretty much was the first pope because, one day Jesus turned to him and he said, hey, they're probably going to kill me soon. I need you to start this church. Can you do that? Sure. Thanks. Cool. So he was the first pope, really, as you look at it. He steps into the role at age 69. He's going to be 70 in September. So as far as popes go, this guy's pretty young. barring, God forbid, any kind of a health crisis or any other kind of emergency, he's going to be around a long time. So it's important to get to know him. And I hear what you're saying. I totally understand it. You're like, well, I'm not Catholic. I could care less what the Pope's all about. I hear you. I understand that. I totally get that. But here's the thing. The latest estimate is that the Catholic Church, the Pope, not in charge of, but influences and persuades 1.4 billion people around the world. 1.4 billion. So anybody with that much influence worldwide, you got to pay attention to what they're all about. So this is an amazing thing. This is the first amazing thing, why this is so different. And, I go back and forth with the Catholic Church. I'm certainly a critic of it. But this was wild to me to hear a pope speaking with an American accent. He knows 5 languages, but this was wild to me. Just listen to how different this is. If you did grow up Catholic like I did, you know what's coming. You know he's an American by birth, but you hear it as a pope and you're like, whoa, that's really different.
I'll begin with a word in English, and the rest is in Italian. But I want to repeat the words from the responsorial psalm. I will sing a new song to the Lord because he has done marvels.
This may not mean much to you if you didn't grow up in the Catholic Church. And my mom was like a super Catholic. Like if she was a superhero, that's what she would be. She'd have a big C on her cape. Super Catholic. So I'm very, very familiar with all of this. It's wild to hear an American pope. It just is. It's really different. What does it mean, though? What does it mean to normal people like you and me? I think this means the communication from the church is going to be a lot different in many different ways. First of all, not through a translator, not through a different language. He sounds young and vibrant, too. He just does. He's only 69. It's not that old as far as popes go. So, because let's face it, if Francis was like this, even Pope John Paul was like this at the end of their lives, you couldn't even understand. They were like, this guy's got some vigor to him. That's cool. That's all right. Here's the other thing that kind of freaks me out, but it's good. And it makes total sense. It started with Pope Francis, the previous guy who just died recently, but picked up with this guy. This new Pope, Leo XIV, has an X account and is on social media a lot. How weird is that? And I know Pope Francis did, and I get it, but Pope Francis was just kind of like, sort of like monitoring things, and people followed him. This guy's active. So what's the first thing that happened? Just like anybody that's thrust onto the world stage in a big prominent role, what did we all do? What did, not only the news operations, what did we all do? We went on there and we said, all right, let's check out this guy's previous tweets. What's he all about? And certainly that happened. Now, did we learn anything? No, nothing conclusive. This apparently I thought was fake news, and it turned out to be true. Somebody dug up his voting history in the state of Illinois. Apparently, reportedly, by some verifiable sources, he did register once as a Republican. Interesting. Very interesting, especially coming from the Catholic side of things. Okay, there's one thing. Bad side, he has not written, but reposted and liked various posts criticizing Trump's policy of closing the border. And he was very, very, very pro-immigration. That's bad to me. Interesting side. In his own words, though, he has written things. He's not too cool with the whole transgender issue. Not too cool with that. Or gay marriage. Says it's adding more confusion to a confusing world. That's interesting. Now, we got to keep this in mind. It's very, very possible. Not the stuff he's written, because he signed his name to that when he was a bishop. It's possible, though, that somebody that high in the Vatican would have some younger social media person running his account. So maybe the likes and reposts were from them. I don't know. We don't really know. But he was a right-hand man to Pope Francis, so you got to figure he was pretty along the same lines with his policies. You got to figure. My whole issue, all I wanted as a recovering Catholic, it's just a joke. I wanted to see somebody that will protect Western culture. And I think this guy being an American would. The thing that bothers me is pro-immigration, because here's the problem with popes. Most of them are old. They don't have a family lineage. There's nobody, they don't have kids, obviously. They can't. They have, 20 20, maybe this guy 30 years left. So when he's gone, he's gone. He doesn't really care too much about the state of the nations he leaves behind when he's gone. So he doesn't care about what our kids or grandkids are going to face with an invasion of a border like we just had for the past 4 years. He doesn't really care about that. And that bothers me. That's my main issue. We'll see. We'll see what he's all about coming up in the future. We'll see what his actions actually take. Not just going by his previous social media posts, which is still so weird to me. That's just unbelievable. But we'll see. But it's kind of a cool thing. I've gone back and forth with the Catholic Church. I was talking about my mom for Mother's Day a couple of minutes ago. I'll say this. This was the biggest family fight we ever had, was because I refused to get confirmed as a Catholic, even with a super Catholic mom growing up. It was the biggest family fight we ever had, because in the stupid town where I grew up, most people in Catholic dioceses, you get confirmed at like what? I don't know, 11, 12, you get that out of the way and then you're fine. My stupid town where the church was, they were going to delay it. We were going to be like 17 and 18 or something. Now, as a teenager, you're growing up, you're like, you want me to continue to go to CCD classes? I'm trying to get a job and get a car and find some kind of a girlfriend. I'm not down with that. So, I refused, whatever, which led me into looking into more of the Catholic Church and some of the corruption, whatever. So any organization has its own corruption and a big problem. So I've gone back and forth with it. I hope this guy works out. Like I said, 1.4 billion people he influences. It's important, even if you're not Catholic. He influences a lot of things that will affect your daily life, because a lot of people listen to him, and he can affect politics and how things are legislated on a daily basis. So I don't know. But here's one thing that's going to change automatically. He's an American, and he did grow up in Chicago. So now all the communion wafers are going to be served deep dish style. Hey, yucks, I got him. Probably going to jail for that one too. All right, so that's the Pope. It's an amazing time to be in. We'll get into a little bit of news what happened on Capitol Hill yesterday, but not too long, because it's just, it's politics and we're all sick of it, right? But just to explain what all this news is all about. So this guy, Ed Martin, had been the temporary U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. All these cities have U.S. attorneys, and they're all important. But in Washington, D.C., you need that job because that's where all the lawfare cases start. And the U.S. attorney decides which judges are going to see these cases, like all the lawfare thrown against Trump and things that they'll throw against the Democrats, whatever, right? So he had been doing a great job. So they wanted to get him confirmed to be the permanent U.S. attorney for D.C. Well, his nomination was blocked by one senator, and so he's not going to get the job. Senator Thom Tillis, who's a Republican, blocked Trump's nomination, Ed Martin, to be the U.S. attorney for D.C., right? So it's not going to be him. Now, here's Ed Martin's day. Because all these guys are still political. They're go-getters. They are, no matter what their job is. Even if they're just, U.S. attorneys, judges, whatever it is. They all want to advance in their careers. This Ed Martin guy, here's his day. Here's a bad day for you. He finds out his nomination is blocked. And then he goes out in the street to do an interview to talk about it. And he's talking to a Newsmax lady. And he's talking about, where we go from here. In the middle of the interview, and you probably saw this clip, some insane, deranged, crazy cat lady walks up to him, runs up to him, and spits on him in the middle of the interview. And it sounded like this.
We need to get really focused.
Who in the fuck are you? You are Ed Martin.
How you doing? Oh, whoa.
Oh my God. And then runs away, dragging her dog on a leash, by the way. It's responsible pet ownership. That's a bad day. You find out you're not getting the job you wanted, and you got spit on by a crazy cat lady. Can't get much worse than that as far as days go. Well, here's the other thing. Here's how it turns around. And we'll spend not a lot of time on this, but I'll just update you because there's a lot of chatter about this online. Love him or hate him, don't listen to the people that tell you that Trump is dumb, because he is a brilliant strategist. What it looks like now is that he anticipated Thom Tillis blocking the nomination of this Ed Martin guy. So what he can do is nominate a bunch of temporary judges, because they get 120 days each time. It can go on forever. You can just keep nominating judges all you want, or replacing them. They don't have to be confirmed if they're just temporary, and they get 120 days to do their job, to decide who the judges are. They're going to decide these lawfare cases. It's actually really important in D.C. So who does he put in place for at least the next 120 days? If they blocked Ed Martin because they thought he was too extreme, here's your new U.S. attorney for D.C. You know her name, Judge Jeanine Pirro, feisty judicial grandma. You know from Fox News. She's a contributor there, and she's on the 5 all the time. Oh, do you want to mess with her now? Just got somebody more severe. Here she is.
Speak to us anymore. The Democrats are the party of hate. The Democrats are the party that said he's a Putin asset, he's a Russian puppet. The Democrats are the ones who signed affidavits and lied to a court so that they could spy on a president of the United States. The Democrats are the ones who said that we're destroying democracy.
It's like Trump said, okay, you didn't want Ed, you got her. Good luck to you. We know when they say forward HS, that's Ford HS. Anyway, that's why you're going to see a lot more of her these days coming up here. I got a little wicked wisdom before we get into Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day weekend again to all you moms. We love you so much. Here's my little, and I'll keep it quick, little wicked wisdom tip of the day. For if you're an adult and you still have your parents around, count your lucky stars. Because for the rest of us orphans who lost our parents pretty young, there's not a day that goes by that I wouldn't like to have one of them around to be with them and just to talk to them again. So you got a mom, you got a dad, especially a mom on Mother's Day weekend. Give her an extra hug and appreciate all they do. Even if you've had your troubles, appreciate them because they're not around forever. All right, that's enough of that. Speaking of Mother's Day, though, thought this was fascinating. So, I love my surveys. They did a survey, a poll of thousands of people, and they asked people who were raised by a mother and a father, which is becoming rarer and rarer these days. If you had to choose, this is a little dark. If you had to choose one parent, who's the more important one? Here's a little tease. It's not looking good for us dads. 52% said their mother was the most involved in daily activities. Okay, that's one thing. But they asked, if you had to replace one, get this. I don't even know who comes up with this stuff. If you had to replace one, who would you replace? A majority of people said dad. And isn't it true? Meaning, I think mom is the more important parent. And I was thinking about this when I saw this early this morning. And I said, boy, that's kind of rough. But you know what? I can't argue with that, to be honest with you. If, going back to when my kids were younger, if God came down from the heavens and he said, okay, one of you, this is terrible, one of you has to go. I think I'd say, okay, take me. Whatever, that's fine, because it's like, I think my kids can survive, I think, without me, but they need their mom. If you ever doubt that, if you have got multiple kids, whenever there's like an injury or something, who do they run to first? Right to mom. It happens all the time. And moms are awesome. They really are. Now, granted, the best case scenario is to have both parents in the house and both parents to do a good job, but moms are just something extra special. Dads, we have to just admit that. That's a reason why they spend $1 billion on Mother's Day gifts this weekend. That's what the Retailers Association says. You know what us dads get for Father's Day? Like on average, like a $9 gift and a tie. But whatever. We love our moms. And speaking of moms, just another reminder again, I got that interview coming up later on today. I'm going to record with a really cool guy. I like his stuff a lot. I've followed him for quite some time. His name is Dr. Steven Sidoroff, and he talks about turning stress into a superpower. Nobody is more stressed out these days than moms. I see it personally. So this is the Mother's Day special, and that'll be posted on the Wicked Wisdom social media channels, wherever you get them, late this afternoon and running all through the weekend. So I think you're going to enjoy him. It's good stuff. But with that said, hug your mom, would you? We love them. Love you, Mom. Miss you, too. Thanks for finding me. Thanks for the likes and follows on all the channels and all that good stuff. And look for that interview, even on the audio podcast version, wherever you like to get those a little bit later on. Happy Mother's Day. Have a wicked awesome Friday. We'll talk to you later.